My 11-year-old daughter is dealing with a severe eating disorder.
I noticed some behavior changes starting about 1.5 years ago.
We noticed Hannah being more restrictive with her eating.
Particularly certain types of food like carbohydrates, bread products, desserts. She'd wear a jacket to lunch and she would hide food in the pockets of her jacket. Then she would go to the bathroom and throw it away. I would continually find food hidden in her backpack. We actually found food hidden in multiple places all over her room. Hannah is obsessed with her body image and she's constantly saying that she's fat and she's ugly. Every time I try to make her eat, she says, I don't need to eat, I'm already fat. She finds food repulsive, and because she feels fat, she feels like she shouldn't eat.
Every meal is a struggle. If we didn't do anything right now, she would eat 0.
She has what has been deemed an exercise compulsion.
My daughter would set an alarm at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and have a workout routine going of 30 air squats, 30 jumping jacks, 15 sit-ups on repeat times 3.
She had extreme weight loss. We went in for a physical and she hadn't gained weight in a year. Even though it is completely obvious to my husband and I, Hannah does not believe she has an eating disorder. We try to control her eating and her eating disorder behaviors. She fights us every step of the way. My husband and I have checked Hannah into multiple treatment facilities in the last 1.5 years.
3 times she had to get restrained. It's so hard to watch 6 guys restrain your 11-year-old little girl.
Don't ever touch me again! Leave me alone! Get out! Let go of me! Let go of me! Let go of me!
Breathe.
Let go of me!
My wife and I are in way over our head.
I'm afraid this illness will kill her.
I want my daughter back, period.
Okay, Matt, Malina, this is very serious. You recognize that this is life-threatening, correct?
Absolutely.
This started when she was 9 years old. That's very young for someone to become that obsessed and focused on body image and start showing these signs. Talk to me about her when she was 6, 7, and 8.
Well, she was the sweetest girl. I mean, she still is the sweetest girl, but most happy-go-lucky, most outspoken, best eater, I'd say, of our 3 kids.
Right.
Good at everything. You know, she was the kid I didn't worry about at all.
What's your theory of how she got from being just an absolute light to writhing and screaming in a bed, I hate you, get your hands off of me?
Leave me alone! Get out! Let go of me! Let go of me!
She's lost control of herself and her emotions, and this eating disorder has taken over her body.
Looking back to what actually was the main trigger, we don't know for sure what that answer is, but I think there's a lot of little things that have led up to the straw breaking the camel's back. And I think as we look back, it's body image, it's social media, and then maybe Hannah comes up and says, oh, well, maybe I'm not looking as good here or here compared to some of these other girls. So I think that's a big part of it. And then she starts to maybe listen to some of the social media about diet fads that her older sisters or older friends might be looking at. She does not have a phone, so she doesn't have access to this every day. Mm-hmm. And then as we progress into the school year, we didn't find this out until about 3-4 weeks ago that Hannah has mentioned that there was a bullying situation with her. She was in a group of friends, her friends, and a boy in class comes in and ends up picking her out of the group, shoves her down, and starts calling her names along the lines of, you're fat, you're ugly, etc. But at the same time, maybe that's the straw that broke the camel's back.
But 2 years into it, you're just hearing about
Mm-hmm.
that. Now that should be significant to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That 2 years into a life-threatening disease,
right,
you're hearing about what might be a trigger.
Matt and Malina do promote a competitive environment. There is a mentality where everyone is trying to keep up with the Joneses, and with that just comes a lot of pressure. I do believe that this started off as a rebellion to gain more control over her decision-making in her own life. Hannah, she somehow associates eating with letting everyone down, and that has snowballed into this uncontrollable disease. She feels fat and disgusting amongst her peer group. Hannah just feels like her world is spinning out of control. She came to my house and I would watch her stare at food, and I could visually see her saying, okay, if I eat this, I'm gonna get fatter and more disgusting and less love, and I already hate myself. The disease is winning that battle. She feels trapped. She feels like she doesn't have any control over anything. For the last year, Hannah's had access to a cell phone and iPad and laptop. Hannah and her entire peer group believe that body image is extremely important at a very young age. I do not think Matt and Malina are doing a good enough job monitoring it. Matt, Malina, and our entire family are at the breaking point. It is Hail Mary time with this. Our entire family is fighting to save Hannah's life, without a doubt.
Well, Michael's joining us virtually now. Michael, thank you so much for being here. You believe that this is kind of all hands on deck to save this child from herself, true?
Yeah. I just feel so awful that, that they're going through this.
Now, I said I was going to say something when we came back that might be shocking to you and maybe even appalling to hear. And so what is it? And what it is I'm not sure that your daughter has an eating disorder. And you say, well, how can you say that? I mean, look at, she's hiding food. She's obsessively exercising. She has every behavior of an anorexic. Mm-hmm. She checks every box. There's no question that she has all of those behaviors. But the question is, why? And is that an expression of something else?
Sure.
And the reason that that's so important is you've been to treatment facilities, you've done inpatients, you've done outpatients, you've done therapists, you've done this kind of doctor, that kind of doctor, and nothing has worked. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask yourself the question, why? And one answer is that this anorexia is a very difficult disease to treat. It is a lifelong struggle. It is resistant to treatment. It is subject to relapse. It's like a drug addiction. It is tough. That's one. Another explanation is that you might be treating the wrong thing. And if it is an expression of an underlying condition, an underlying disorder that is not being dealt with, then of course it's going to continue to express itself.
And repeat, yeah.
Because you're building a house on sand because you're not dealing with what's under it. And as I look at this, I'm very bothered by labels. Labels really bother me a lot. And labels sometimes cause more trouble than what they describe. It's called iatrogenic labeling. If you label someone intellectually challenged and you put that in their school record, then everybody starts treating them as intellectually challenged. Mm-hmm. And they label themselves intellectually challenged, then they start to behave consistent with the label. And I'll guarantee you, she is living to the label of anorexia. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the fact that 2 years in, you're just learning about a possible huge trigger that wipes out her self-esteem and her self-worth and her self-image tells me that there could be a family dynamic here that underlies a lot of this. Now, why would she choose this instead of something else? Well, the most basic function when someone is out of control is what they take in and what they put out. And if she's feeling out of control, if she's feeling powerless, those are two things she can control, right?
Yeah. Hannah spends a lot of time looking at herself in the mirror. She does something called body checking. which is common with people with eating disorders, where they're constantly looking over their body and criticizing themselves, pinching themselves, and talking to themselves in a negative manner about how their body looks. I absolutely do feel like this is a nightmare. We are completely overwhelmed by the severity of the illness that has taken Hannah over.
Malina says Hannah used to be the light of the room, class president, until what they describe as an eating disorder made her shy and withdrawn. Now, her Aunt Whitney says her niece's eating disorder has taken over. She joins us now virtually. Whitney, thank you for being here.
Hi, Dr. Phil. Thank you for having us.
When she came out of one of her interventions, one of her hospitalizations, why do you think your niece said that she would rather stay with your family than go back to her own?
I mean, at the time, I think I assumed with our two little girls, 4 and 2, I know she's a sweet, kind child, and so she has motherly instincts. But then, as she stayed with us and we went on a lot of walks together, she just started opening up about how I could just tell she just did not feel comfortable going home.
You heard her whispering them a time or two, like, ask me for a piggyback ride up the stairs and things, because she was using them as weights to exercise, right?
Yeah, I mean, her heart's there. She loves them to death, but also as a 4-year-old, she tells me a lot. And so she said that, Hannah asked her to love taking her up and down the stairs with piggyback rides. And, if we would sit down to dinner, she would never sit down. And so little kids get distracted really easily. And so they'd want to go play. And then she'd be throwing them on the couch over and over and over again and chasing them all around.
You say that she does seem to be obsessed with her older sister.
It was weird because at first I wouldn't have thought so, but there were just things after living with us that she would say about her older sister. Things like Heather is becoming a really bad kid, and, she isn't listening and she doesn't like our family, and, some pretty hurtful things. But then every action I noticed was that she was trying to copy, emulate, was really interested in anything that had to do with her older sister.
Yeah, Michael, do you see the girls together? Have you observed the sisters together?
I have, yeah. One perspective that I have is Matt and Malina and the community they live in. They love their kids so much, and in that process, they provide so many opportunities for them. And it creates an environment sometimes where you have these kids then fighting for the attention of their parents and their parents' friends, and it's natural, but I think that the more abundance there is of that, eventually you're going to start getting some rebelling if you're not the kid that's being noticed. And you touched on that, Dr. Phil, and I thought that was very astute.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're on the short end of that stick, then you can start having reactions to it. And the key word in my sentence is if you feel like. It doesn't matter what reality is. Perception is reality.
My daughter does suffer from body dysmorphia. She looks at herself in the mirror and she sees an individual that's overweight, that is not good enough, that should not be here. I cannot say, Hannah, you're beautiful. I love you. She gets upset with that and she starts to escalate. That's why we are so scared. Hi, can I help you sit up here?
No.
Okay, I love you.
Hey, girl.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Good. It's good to meet you.
Me
Have your
too.
ears been burning? We've been talking about you. Your parents are concerned enough that you guys drove a long way to get here. They think that your health is in jeopardy because of poor nutrition. What do you think?
I don't think so.
Well, let's talk about something else for a little bit. What do you like to do? Like, do you have,
Sports,
what's your favorite sport?
soccer or softball.
Are you good?
She's an awesome soccer player.
Yeah. Do you run the whole game? You don't run out of energy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you're not an only child. Who else is in the family?
I have a younger 8-year-old brother and an older 13-year-old sister.
How you get along with them?
Me and my brother get along a little better than me and my sister.
Do you have a pet? What do you have?
3 goldfish,
They all have names.
What's your pet that you would really like to get?
a dog,
What kind of dog do you want?
a teddy bear Maltese.
They're good dogs, yeah. 11-year-old Hannah mentioned that she wasn't really all that comfortable to discuss everything with her parents, and I want to respect that. So I asked them to give us some time alone. What makes you uncomfortable talking in front of your mom and dad?
I'm not really sure.
Do you really not think that there's anything wrong with the way you're handling food and exercise, or do you think it's a little extreme? You think it's okay? Yeah. Let me tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and I think it's pretty extreme, but I wanted you to know that I don't think there's anything that you're doing that you should be in trouble for, or that you should be like punished for or restricted for or anything like that. So I do think that what you're doing is not healthy, but I just don't think it's your fault. And I think we got to try to figure some stuff out, but I wanted you to know that I don't think it's anything you're doing on purpose or that it's your fault. What do you want your life to look like? Are you going to grow up and be a teacher or an astronaut, or get married and have kids and be a teacher and astronaut, or what do you want to do?
Either a dentist and a baker as a side job, or a professional athlete and a baker as a side job.
Yeah. You want to be a dentist? Do you like going to the dentist? Oh my God. I hate going to the dentist.
Why?
Because it hurts. You do well in school, right? What's your favorite subject?
Science or writing.
Do you spend much time on the internet? Well, with school, I guess you have to spend some time, right? Where do we go with the kids? Is it family? What is it?
House party.
House party. You ever go to house party with your friends? Yeah, we do that with our grandkids. That's kind of fun. When you can't see them, you can at least go there.
My daughter used to be so affectionate, hugging every day, holding hands. She'd be smiling and just bouncing all over the place. Now she barely wants me to touch her, hug her, anything. That hurts me a great deal, especially when I know that she wants that and needs it. It's 100%, my opinion, the eating disorder, hands down.
Well, I'm back with Matt and his wife, Malina. They say the more they try to get Hannah to eat, the more she's pushing them and food away. We've referenced Hannah's older sister, Heather, and she's going to join us virtually here. Heather, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm curious to kind of hear your take on your little sister. How do you think she's doing as far as her eating and exercise and all? Do you think it's extreme?
Yeah, I do.
Do you think she compares herself to you?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because my mom talks about it a lot. And because she looks up to me, I feel like that I should be a role model to her, but me and her have different personalities. So I feel like she will compare herself to me when I am more like outgoing than her in a way.
One thing I want to be very, very clear about. I think your sister does have a very serious problem, and I think it is a life-threatening problem. And I think there is a path out of this forest, and I'm going to describe what that is with your parents here. But the one thing that I want you to understand is I don't think you are responsible for this in any way, not 1%, not 5%, not 10%. This is not your fault. There's nothing that you've done that has created this issue for your sister. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you believe what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's very important because you're not the problem, but you can be part of the solution. I've been in this field for 45 years. I don't know a time that I've had a better resource as parents than you two. This is one of those things that it just kind of is a perfect storm of elements that conspires to happen at a certain point in time. And that doesn't mean that it can't be unraveled, because it can. We can fix it. I think what's happened here is there is a family dynamic that paradoxically is occurring in a very loving family where she has perceived herself in a way that makes her reject herself and reject her body image to the point that she has become obsessed with changing it. And I didn't do this with her, but if I showed her 4 silhouettes of a body type here, she would perceive herself to be one of the 2 on the right, I guarantee you.
Yep.
I
agree.
Okay, so that's how distorted her perception is, because you guys would look at her and say, clearly, this is how she looks, objectively. Now, this is the thing that we have to get across to her, is that feelings are not facts. And when you're 11 years old and you feel something very viscerally, when a boy pushes you down and says, you're fat and ugly, it can really change your filter. And then she compares herself with her sister, who is a delightful young woman and enjoys social success. And sister's not doing anything wrong. She is a great role model. But by comparison, she's like, I got them telling me I'm fat and ugly. I got her. And so her self-esteem is just like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And she's the middle child. Take it from a middle child. It's easy to disappear. Okay, now, hold that thought for a minute. Now, add to that the fact that being this focused on her body image and defining herself that way is obviously pretty shallow. The good news to that is it's easy to overcome. If she gets interested in volunteering at an animal shelter, if she gets focused on working with disadvantaged children, if she gets focused on anything that is meaningful, that becomes a passion for her, she will forget this so fast it'll make your head swim. What about getting her where she is exposed to and gets a passion for something else where she doesn't have time to run up and down those stairs. She doesn't have the emotional energy to be focused on that work schedule. She has to go bathe these puppies. She has to go do this. She has to go do that. Something that she is so invested in that this just falls by the wayside. And not one eating program you have taken her to focuses on any of that.
No.
It does not focus on her position in the family. It does not focus on your dynamic with how you engage her. The family dynamic has to change. If it means you have to quit your job, sell your house, and become Swiss Family Robinson living in the forest, if it saves her life, that's what you have to be willing to do. I don't think you have to go that far. This does change. Let me share with you a story that we worked with once before. Matt's actually been in touch with one of my former guests, Jessica, who suffered from an extreme eating disorder. Take a look at this.
I want to be scary skinny. That's my goal. Today I weighed 97 pounds.
Right now it's to the point where Jessica's organs are actually starting to fail.
I can feel my body falling apart and I'm scaring myself.
You are out of control. You're depressed. You have anxiety problems. You are going to die if you don't do something to change this.
But I'm scared.
You can die from this. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Jessica now considers her eating disorder a gift because it led to a big change in her life.
As of right now, I'm 13 years free of my eating disorder. For me, I had a very, very excessive obsession with exercise and counted calories and working out and making sure I did the same thing day in, day out. That controlled my life. That also contributed to my anorexia, the bulimia, and my weight loss. The lowest weight I've ever been was 97 pounds, which was never good enough. When I came to Dr. Phil, I was on my last breath. I had to fight for whatever I needed to do to stay alive. Dr. Phil is the one who supported me. I can tell you I wouldn't be here today talking to you without Dr. Phil. I have 2 amazing kids and amazing husband. So I am super beyond blessed to have a healthy, happy family. To this amazing girl that's suffering from this eating disorder, I want you to know that everyone loves you. You got this, and just focus on you. You are the most important thing right now. This is your opportunity to learn new coping skills. Listen, Dr. Phil, he's there for you, and you got this.
People do get over this, is my point. This does turn around. Yeah. But a traditional approach to this is not going to do it here. You've got to change that family dynamic, and then you've got to realize this is one-dimensional. She's got to find a passion. And when she does, there is a very good chance this will disappear.
Maybe the dog.
Maybe the dog. And maybe she volunteers for 3 months in order to earn the dog. And she's got to understand her feeling of being less than, her feeling of being fat when she's not. She's got to start testing those feelings and realizing those aren't facts. I've got to go with facts. I am loved. I am not eating enough. I've got to trust facts instead of 11-year-old feelings. Yeah. Feelings aren't facts. When you get her to understand that one sentence, her world will change. Good. And you do it by finding a competing passion and changing this family dynamic.
Okay. My 11-year-old daughter is dealing with a severe eating disorder.
Here's her daily schedule. Wake up at 5 to exercise and run the stairs.
This eating disorder has taken over her body.
I'm not sure that your daughter has an eating disorder. You might be treating the wrong thing.
New Dr. Phil. Check your local listings.